practice that. You know, thanks to each of you for the difference that you make in the lives of the young people that we serve. And as John has demonstrated tonight, we have a lot of great things to be proud of. We also have a lot of things we need to work on. But I also want to take this moment to give a special thanks to our staff. You know, this year they have had to deal with challenges that they had no control over. And they've done so with dignity, with integrity, and they have shown great leadership. And it's an honor to work with each and every one of our employees and our staff that serve you and our great volunteers. So let's give them a round of applause. You know, to our board members, our advisory council, our friends, our charter organization reps, and all those who have joined us and worked this year, you continue to amaze me by your dedication and leadership to Scouting. You make an incredible contribution to the lives that we serve. But also add my personal thanks to Jim Huey for serving this year as our chairman of the board and agreeing to continue that service. I'd like to offer Jim my personal thanks for your steady leadership, your guiding hand, which has been outstanding. Jim, who's an Eagle Scout, certainly exemplifies every aspect of being an Eagle Scout. And Jim, on behalf of the council, would like to recognize you by presenting to you a James E. West Fellowship that's in honor of your father, Dr. James F. Jim Huey, who passed away in May of this year. Jim, thank you. You know, at times this year, as we looked at our challenges and sometimes we were getting beaten up, sometimes fairly, sometimes not so fairly, you know, I had to really focus on what really mattered, you know, the youth that we serve in our great council. You know, the distractions of our membership standard discussion and the stress it was causing on many of our volunteers and our staff was very evident. But at the most challenging of times, I was always reminded of what matters most, the young people that we serve, and that everything that we do is for and about them. Forrest A. Whitcraft said it best, and many of you have heard this: all about me are boys, they are makers of history, the builders of tomorrow. If I can have some part in guiding them up the trails of Scouting on the high road of noble character and constructive citizenship, I may prove to be the most important person in their lives, the most important person in the community. 100 years from now will not matter what my bank account was, the sort of house I lived in, the car I drove, but the world may be different because I was important in the life of the Scout. And each of you are important in the youth that we serve. We owe it to those youth and our volunteers who support them to focus not on just maintaining our quality programs, but improving them for the future. You know, the legacy of service of our council and those who founded Scouting in our 22 counties is significant. And we're pausing to look towards the future as we celebrate over the next year the 100 years of service of Scouting in the 22 counties that we serve. But if you look at the 3 preceding councils and you look at the founders of those councils, you may not recognize some of these names, but they're important. W.J. Duncan Jr., who was the first council president of the Tennessee Valley Council. F.O. Tyler, who was the first president of the Choctaw Area Council. And Gordon Burr, who was the first president of the Birmingham Area Council. Mr. Duncan of Decatur was a past president of the Decatur Rotary Club. He was a trustee of Athens College, and he was active in the Decatur Country Club. Mr. Tyler was of the Tyler family that those of you in the Anniston area may be familiar with, one of the founding families. He was associated with the Anniston Manufacturing Company, cotton mill there in Anniston. Mr. Burr, an attorney, was born in Talladega, graduated from the University of Alabama. And all 3 of these folks had one thing in common. They were leaders in our community, and they saw the great need of Scouting many years ago. Great leaders, a great council, and great Scouting. But now we must focus on the future. Our legacy is important, but we need to focus on where we're going and how we're going to get there. And with that in mind, I need your help. we need your help to deliver the promise of scouting to all the families that we serve. You know, to support that mother who is that young Tiger Cub Scout, but she's struggling to make the ends meet. You know, to guide the youth each week as they rededicate themselves to the Scout Oath and Law. And we know how important those values and ethics are. You know, we need to complete the capital campaign that we started and finish that and do those improvements in the important work that we started. We have to give that Eagle Scout a real chance to make a difference in the world. We all need to continue to support this council financially, to get others to do the same, and consider increasing your level of support. Providing uniforms, helping scouts, teaching skills, reaching out to our corporate and leadership communities. Those things are all important. Some of the goals that I think are important as we finish up our strategic plan, we approve it and implement it and begin that important work. Continuing to grow our fundraising efforts, and to expand the opportunity for support of our endowment. And I have a vision that as we work and grow that, it will set up our endowment fund with two funds, one that will distribute towards our operating and one towards our capital. I can say, you know, our discussion tonight on our endowment was important. Not all of you agreed, and maybe in decisions in the past, or in the direction or the discussion that we had tonight. But as we move forward and look to the future, we need to make serious gains in our endowment and doubling that gift. You know, I'm not responsible for what we did in the past, but I'll take full responsibility for where we are right now and where we're going in the future and what I'm doing in my role as Scout Executive. And I promise you that this Scout Executive will never come to this board and ask to borrow from our endowment fund. And if I do, you need a new Scout Executive. You know, the membership strategy of this council is important and needs to be implemented to continue to get us back on the growth. You know, we had finally turned the corner and we're having growth, and then 2013 happened. But that's just a stumble in the road as we move forward and continue to grow, as we continue to serve every youth and give every youth an opportunity. Let me close my remarks tonight before we get to our final part with a quick prayer. And I'd like for everyone to join me in prayer as I share with you, if we could all bow our heads. And this is one of my favorite prayers, one General MacArthur said for his son. And I pray, build me a son, O Lord, who will be strong enough to know when he is weak, and brave enough to face himself when he is afraid. One who will be proud and unbending in honest defeat, and humble and gentle in victory. Build me a son whose wishbone will not be where his backbone should be, a son who will know thee, and that to know himself is the foundation stone of knowledge. Lead him, I pray, not in the path of ease and comfort, but under the stress and spur of difficulties and challenge. Here let him learn to stand up in the storm. Here let him learn compassion for those who fail. Build me a son whose heart will be clean, whose goal will be high, a son who will master himself before he seeks to master others. One who will learn to laugh, yet never forget how to weep. One who will reach into the future, yet never forget the past. And after all these things are his, add, I pray, enough of a sense of humor so that he may always be serious, yet never take himself too seriously. Please give him humility so that he may always remember the simplicity of greatness, the open mind of true wisdom, the meekness of true strength, and then I, his father, would dare to whisper, I have not lived in vain. Amen. Before I turn it back over to John to get us to our chairman's words and our Friends of Scouting, I want us to listen to some scouting volunteers who show true humility, wisdom, strength, and whose lives have most certainly not been in vain.
I became a scout on my 12th birthday